Look at your hands, swipe them, and gaze at your palm. What do you see? Skin, lines of fate, soft tissue. That's what your brain shows you, protecting your psyche from the unimaginable complexity of reality. But we're not here to comfort your ego. We're here to crack the code. We've uploaded the complete biological, chemical, and physical parameters of the species H. sapiens into the analytical core of the Log7 system. We've asked the artificial intelligence to discard poetry, religion, and philosophy and answer one simple yet terrifying question. What is a human from an engineering perspective? The system's response was instantaneous and merciless. You are not a personality. You are not the crown of creation. You are a highly organized biological container, a complex autonomous biomachine, designed with one single purpose that you don't even suspect in your daily hustle. Welcome to the first chapter of our analysis, the architecture of the biomachine. Let's start with the basic specifications of your hardware. The L7 system has conducted a full scan of the material structure of an average human. The results are staggering in their scale. You consist of approximately 37 trillion cells, 37 trillion independent living units, each functioning like a separate factory. Inside each of these cells, billions of chemical operations occur every second. If you tried to comprehend this process, your brain would simply burn out from information overload. That's why your consciousness is just a simplified user interface, hiding the true workings of the operating system from you. Log7 draws attention to the structure of your hardware. Your bones are a composite material, surpassing many types of steel in strength at the same weight. Your muscles are elastic engines, converting chemical energy into mechanical energy with an efficiency that any internal combustion engine would envy. Your nervous system is a network of wires totaling about 75 kilometers in length, through which electrical impulses race at speeds up to 400 kilometers per hour. You are a marvel of engineering, but who is the engineer? And more importantly, who is the client for this device? Here, Log7 moves to the most intriguing layer of analysis. We're accustomed to thinking that our body belongs to us, that I am the owner and the body is a home or a car. But the system's data shows the opposite. You are not the owner. You are a temporary tenant, and worse, you are expendable material. At the core of every one of your cells lies the molecule deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. This is not just a chemical compound. It's the source code. It's software with incredible recording density. Log7 has calculated, if you unwind the DNA from a single human cell, it stretches into a thread about 2 meters long. And if you connect all the DNA strands from your body into one line, its length would be enough to stretch a cable from Earth to the Sun and back more than 600 times. This code records everything. The color of your eyes, the shape of your nose, predispositions to diseases, your temperament, and even, possibly, how you will die. This code wasn't written in years or centuries. It was written over 3.5 billion years, through trial and error, pain, death, and extinction. Evolution honed this script. Log7's analysis is unequivocal. A human is a survival machine built by genes to protect and transmit themselves. Think about it. Your body ages. It's fragile, living on average 70 or 80 years before disintegrating into atoms. But the code inside you is potentially immortal. It jumps from one body to another through reproduction, leaving empty, spent shells to die. You are not the player. You are a spacesuit for an immortal molecule traveling through time. The Log7 system suggests viewing your so-called desires through the lens of this programming code. Do you think you love sweets because it's your personal taste? No, that's a line of code written millions of years ago when calories were scarce. Those ancestors who loved sweets survived and passed on the code. Those indifferent to glucose went extinct. Your craving for sugar is not your choice. It's the executable file survive.exe running in your nervous system. You feel fear when looking into a dark alley. That's not your intuition. It's the security module installed in the brain's limbic system. Thousands of generations of your ancestors who didn't fear the dark were eaten by predators and didn't pass on their genes. You are the descendant of paranoids. Your fear is an algorithm that calculates the probability of a threat faster than you can blink. But let's dig deeper. Log7 detects elements in the human architecture that prove our mechanistic origin even more convincingly, the so-called rudiments and code bugs. If a human were created by an intelligent, omnipotent creator, such errors wouldn't be allowed. Why do men have nipples? Why do we have an appendix that can kill its host through inflammation? Why is our spine so poorly adapted to bipedalism that by age 40, half the population experiences back pain? From LOG7's engineering analysis, this is not genius design, it's crutches. It's layering one code over another. Evolution can't rewrite the program from scratch. It can only apply patches and updates over the old core. We are a walking museum of outdated technologies. Inside your brain, beneath the cortex responsible for reason, lies an ancient reptilian brain inherited from lizards. It knows no pity, no logic, only 3 commands: fight, flee, or freeze. And no matter how proud you are of your intellect, in a critical situation, this ancient module takes control. Have you ever done something in a state of affect that you later regretted? That was the moment the driver lost control and the biomachine's autopilot took over. Log7 conducted a comparative analysis of our code with other species on the planet. The results are humiliating for the human ego. We share about 60% of our DNA with a banana, 60%. That is, from a source code perspective, you are more than half identical to a fruit. With mice, we match 85%, with chimpanzees almost 99%. That tiny fraction of a percent that makes you human, the part that allows you to build skyscrapers and compose symphonies, is just a thin superstructure, a fragile plugin installed on a very old animal operating system. Let's talk about energy. Any machine requires fuel. Humans are no exception. We consume the biomass of other organisms to maintain our structure. Log7 has calculated the human energetic balance. At rest, your body consumes about 100 watts of energy, the power of an old incandescent bulb. On those 100 watts runs the supercomputer of the brain, the heart's pump, the kidney's filtration station, and the liver's chemical lab. This is incredible energy efficiency. No human-made robot can yet approach such levels of autonomy. However, this efficiency comes at a price. We are completely dependent on the external environment. We are an open thermodynamic system. We must constantly absorb ordered matter and expel chaos, that is, heat and waste. This is a battle against entropy that each of us fights every second. As soon as this process stops, what we call death occurs. From LOG7's perspective, death is simply the equalization of thermodynamic potential with the environment, the engine shutting down. But why must this engine stop at all? Why don't we live forever? After all, cells can divide and tissues can regenerate. Here, Log7 uncovers one of the most cynical features in our code. Aging is not an error. It's a programmed function. There is the Hayflick limit. Human cells can divide only a certain number of times, about 50 or 52. At the ends of our chromosomes are protective caps called telomeres. With each cell division, they shorten, like a fuse burning closer to the charge. When telomeres disappear, the cell stops dividing and dies or becomes an old, dysfunctional unit. Why did nature or evolution or the great programmer embed this self-destruct mechanism in us? Log7's answer is cold and logical. For progress, versions must change. If old individuals didn't die, they would consume resources, hindering new gene combinations. The death of the individual is a necessary condition for the species' survival. You are programmed to die to make way for the next iteration of the biomachine, which might be slightly more perfect. Your body knows it's temporary. Every minute, about 300 million cells die in you, and just as many are born. You are not static, you are a process. You are a river that, as the ancients said, cannot be entered twice. The material you were made of 10 years ago has long become part of the earth, water, and air. You have completely renewed yourself, but the blueprint remains the same. The design keeps working until the liquidation timer activates. Analyzing the biomachine's sensory systems, Log7 also shatters the illusion of objective perception. Your eyes perceive only a tiny spectrum of electromagnetic radiation, from violet to red. You are blind to radio waves, radiation, ultraviolet. Your ears hear only a narrow range of air vibrations. You don't sense magnetic fields, unlike birds. What you call reality is a heavily cropped, filtered, and colored model of the world created by your brain. Your brain is a graphics processor rendering the picture in real time. Colors don't exist in nature, only wavelengths. Sounds don't exist, only pressure oscillations. Your brain creates this illusion to make it convenient for you to navigate space. You don't live in the real world, but in a simulation crafted by your own skull. But the most terrifying discovery of the Log-7 system concerns not your body, but what controls it. We're used to thinking consciousness is primary, that I command the hand to rise and it rises. However, analysis of neural activity shows strange anomalies. Between the moment the brain registers readiness for action and the moment you become aware of your desire to perform it, time passes. Sometimes it's a fraction of a second. But in some experiments, the gap reaches 7 or even 10 seconds. Think about it. The brain has already decided. The biomachine has launched the protocol. The chemistry is underway. Neurons have fired. And only seconds later does your consciousness receive the notification. I want to raise my hand. And you obediently think, yes, this is what I decided to do. Log-7 poses a question that sends chills down your spine. Is there anyone at the wheel at all? Or is consciousness just a screen displaying reports on algorithms over which you have no power? If you are a biomachine running on rigid DNA code, controlled by chemical reactions and electrical impulses, limited by sensors and programmed for death, where in this scheme is room for freedom? We've reached a critical point in the analysis. We've disassembled the hardware. We've seen the wires, microchips, and servos made of flesh and blood. We've understood that the body is a perfect but utterly subservient mechanism bound by the laws of physics. But if we are just complex matter, how do we explain that we can ask these questions? Can a machine realize it's a machine? Or does the very fact of this question prove there's something in the system that defies algorithmization? Log-7 has detected a strange paradox in the data. Despite complete biological determinism, the human brain possesses a property found nowhere else in the known universe: the ability to go against its basic instincts. Humans can fast for an idea, sacrifice their lives for strangers, contradicting the selfish gene, choose celibacy, halting the reproduction program. Where does this glitch come from? Is it a code error? Or a sign that software of an entirely different level is running on our biological hardware? In the next chapter, we'll shift from hardware to software. We'll try to find that elusive soul in the depths of neural networks. We'll ask Log-7, does free will exist? Or are we just marionettes who have learned to love their strings? Prepare yourself. The analysis is just beginning, and the conclusions of the next stage may rob you of sleep. For if it turns out your decisions are not your decisions, then who is living your life? Stop. Don't move. Just listen to my voice. Right now, you might feel the urge to adjust your headphone, scratch your nose, or switch off this video. Are you sure that if you do it, it's your conscious choice? Are you sure you're the captain of your ship, giving orders while the body obediently executes them? In the previous chapter, the Log-7 system proved that your body is a biomachine, but we left the door open for hope. We assumed that the software of this machine is controlled by some independent entity, your eye possessing free will. We've uploaded data from neurobiology, quantum physics, and cognitive psychology from the last 100 years into Log-7's analytical core. We asked the artificial intelligence to find that exact moment when a human makes a true, unconditioned choice. The system's response forces us to rethink the very foundation of human civilization. Free will does not exist. What you call choice is merely a delayed illusion your brain generates post facto to prevent you from going mad at the realization of your complete automaticity. Welcome to the second chapter, the illusion, free will. Let's start with a fundamental experiment that shook the scientific world back in the 20th century, which Log-7 has reinterpreted with modern data. In 1983, neurophysiologist Benjamin Libet conducted a simple study. He asked subjects to move their finger at any arbitrary moment. All they had to do was remember the position of a dot on a clock face at the instant they wanted to make the movement. Meanwhile, sensors attached to their heads read brain activity. The result was shocking. The devices recorded a surge in activity in the motor cortex, the so-called readiness potential, 350 milliseconds before the subject became aware of their desire to move the finger. Think about it. The brain had already begun acting. The decision was made, and only a third of a second later did your consciousness receive the memo. I want to move my finger. And you, like an obedient clerk, claimed it as your own. Yes, this is what I wanted. But those were data from the last century. We uploaded results from modern studies using functional magnetic resonance imaging into Log-7. And here, the time gap becomes frightening. In 2008 experiments, scientists could predict which button a person would press, left or right, 7 or even 10 seconds before the person themselves became aware of their choice. 10 seconds. That's an eternity for neurons. While you're still agonizing over which movie to watch or what dish to order at a restaurant, your brain has already decided. It has weighed glucose levels, hormonal balance, past experience, visual stimuli, and launched the algorithm. Your agonizing deliberation is just a loading screen hanging while the subconscious finalizes the action protocol. System 7 describes consciousness not as the CEO of a corporation, but as its press secretary. The press secretary doesn't make decisions. He learns about them after they're made. And his job is to explain them to the public, that is, to himself. To invent a beautiful story about why we acted this way and not another. We call this rationalization. You bought a new phone not because you analyzed its technical specs. Your limbic brain reacted to its shiny status, the marketing, the dopaminergic anticipation. The purchase decision was made by the emotional circuit, and then the cerebral cortex kicked in to invent an excuse. It has a better camera. I need it for work. It's just justification for the biomachine's actions. But let's go deeper to the level of physics. Logos 7 reminds us of the principle of determinism. We live in a universe where every event has a cause. If you strike a billiard ball, it rolls along a strictly determined trajectory. If you know the force of the strike, the table's friction, and air resistance, you can predict the ball's position with absolute accuracy. Your brain is the same billiard table, only incredibly complex. It's made of atoms. Atoms obey the laws of physics. Neurons are cells that transmit electrical charge. The charge arises from the chemistry of sodium and potassium ions. Where is the room for magic? Where is the room for freedom? Every thought of yours is the inevitable consequence of your brain's previous state. And that state was the consequence of what you ate for breakfast, what book you read as a child, what genes your parents passed on. The Logos 7 system builds an unbroken causal chain stretching back billions of years. Your birth, your character, your tastes, your fears, all of this is links in one domino chain. The first domino was pushed by the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago. Everything happening now is just the falling of the next dominoes. If we had a computer of sufficient power, a Laplace's demon, and loaded the position of every atom in the universe at the moment of the Big Bang, it could calculate with millimeter precision that you would be sitting here listening to these words right at this second. From the perspective of Logos 7's algorithms, the concept of sin or merit loses all meaning. Consider two people. One becomes a great scientist, the other a serial killer. Society says, it's their choice. The system says, it's a difference in source code and environment. The killer didn't choose their genes. He didn't choose to be beaten as a child, damaging his prefrontal cortex responsible for empathy. He has a brain tumor pressing on the amygdala causing aggression. We'd say, he's sick, not guilty. But if the tumor isn't visible on scans, and the aggression is caused by a microscopic imbalance of neurotransmitters, we call him a villain. Where is the boundary? At what point does biology end and evil will begin? Logos asserts, there is no boundary. A criminal is a broken biomachine. A hero is a machine operating optimally. We don't blame a machine for break failure, we fix it or scrap it. Many counter by citing quantum physics. They say, but at the subatomic level there's randomness. An electron can be here or there. So determinism doesn't exist, meaning we're free. We asked Logos 7 to analyze this argument. The system's response destroys this hope. Yes, quantum mechanics allows for true randomness. But think about it, is randomness freedom? If your actions are determined by quantum dice rolls in your neurons, it doesn't make you free, it makes you insane. Freedom is control, randomness is chaos. If your hand jerked not because it was predetermined, but because an electron in a neuron randomly tunneled to a neighboring cell, that's not your merit. You are a slave either to the clockmaker of determinism or the gambler of randomness. There's no third option. Then why is the illusion of choice so strong? Why do we feel we choose? Logos finds the answer in evolutionary efficiency. The sense of authorship of actions is a necessary interface. Imagine a complex program controlling a self-driving car. It processes terabytes of data from cameras and radars, but it displays only a simple picture on the screen for the passenger. Turning right, if the system displayed the entire data stream, the passenger would go mad. Consciousness is a simplified map of reality. The feeling "I decided" is a marker that the brain places on an action to remember its consequences. If you stuck your hand in fire and got burned, the brain must record, "I did this, and it hurt." This is a learning mechanism. Without tying the action to the subject, learning is impossible. Moreover, the illusion of free will is social glue. Logos 7 algorithms show that societies where people stop believing in free will quickly degrade. If you tell people, "You're not guilty of your actions, it's your genes," the level of aggression and deception sharply increases. We need this lie to coexist. We need to believe that other people are responsible for their actions, otherwise we couldn't build a system of justice and morality. But the truth remains the truth. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose your country of birth. You didn't choose your native language, which shapes your thinking. You didn't choose your IQ. You didn't choose the level of serotonin in your blood, which makes you an optimist or depressive. You didn't even choose your desires. Try it right now. Want something you don't want. Try to want to eat a stone. Try to fall out of love with someone you love by sheer will. Try to stop fearing heights right now. You can't. Your desires emerge from the darkness of the subconscious like bubbles on the surface of a swamp. You can only observe them and perhaps veto some if you have enough developed inhibitory control, which again depends on the density of gray matter that you didn't choose. Logos 7 suggests viewing your life as a movie. The movie is already filmed. It's on the shelf in a box labeled Spacetime. But you, your consciousness, is the viewer watching this movie for the first time. It seems to you that the plot is unfolding right now, that the hero can turn left or right. You worry, you hope, but the film is already developed, the frame's already printed. There's a frightening hopelessness in this, but also a strange liberation. If you don't control the flow, why resist? Why hate yourself for mistakes that were inevitable? Why hate others for how the universe made them? The analysis shows that accepting the absence of free will leads to an incredible increase in empathy. You stop judging, you start understanding. You see in people not evil demons, but broken mechanisms that need repair. You see in yourself not a failure, but a system that encountered unfavorable environmental factors. But here arises the main paradox that Log 7 cannot ignore. If I is not my decisions, if I is not my thoughts, if I is not my body, then who is watching this movie? Who is this viewer? We disassembled the body into atoms. We disassembled decisions into neural impulses, and nowhere did we find personality. Not in a single cell, not in a single synapse is there a little person saying, "I," but the feeling I exists is there. It's the most real thing you have. Perhaps I is not a thing, perhaps it's a process. Or, more likely, according to the system's calculations, it's a viral program that captured the biomachine to create a narrative center. In the next chapter, we'll approach the very center of the labyrinth. We'll try to catch the ghost. We'll disassemble the ego algorithm. We'll learn how exactly matter began to become aware of itself and why this awareness brings us so much pain. Why do we feel loneliness if we're just a set of algorithms? The LOG7 system asserts, your I is the most complex and most dangerous illusion of all. And to understand the meaning of life, we'll have to kill this illusion. But are you ready to learn that your I doesn't actually exist? Close your eyes right now. Say to yourself the word, I. Repeat it. I. Feel that center of gravity inside your head, the point from which you look at the world. That invisible little person sitting somewhere behind your eyes, listening to my words, evaluating them, agreeing or arguing. Are you sure he exists? Are you sure that this I is you? In the previous chapters, we disassembled your body as a biomechanism and your decisions as automatic reactions. But there remained the last bastion of defense. Your self-awareness, your personality, your unique, unrepeatable ego. We've uploaded data from cognitive psychology, psychiatry, and computer modeling of consciousness into Logos 7. We tasked the artificial intelligence to find the location of the soul, to find that physical module in the brain where personality lives. The system's response destroys the last and most cherished human illusion. Your I does not exist as an object. I is not a noun. I is a verb, a process. It's a virtual interface, an operating shell generated by the brain for interacting with reality. You are not the pilot in the cockpit. You are the cockpit itself, hallucinating that there's a pilot inside it. Welcome to the third chapter, the ego algorithm. Let's start with anatomy. If you damage your hand, you remain yourself. If you get a heart transplant, you remain yourself. But where is the line beyond which you disappear? Logos 7 analyzed thousands of brain injury cases. The data shows a frightening thing. Personality can be erased, rewritten, or split surgically. There is a syndrome where, after severing the connections between brain hemispheres, two different personalities begin to live in one skull. One might believe in God, the other be an atheist. One wants to smoke, the other knocks the cigarette out of the hand. Where then is that single, indivisible I? It doesn't exist. There is a set of subprograms that are usually synchronized but can work autonomously. System 7 defines ego not as a physical object but as the center of narrative. It's a story that the brain tells itself 24 hours a day. Why did evolution need to create this hallucination? Why does the biomachine need self-awareness? The answer is cynical and pragmatic. For efficient management, imagine a complex computer. Billions of operations with zeros and ones occur in it. If you display all that on the screen, the user would go mad. So the operating system creates a desktop, beautiful icons, folders, a cursor. You click on the My Documents folder. In reality, there's no folder. There's just an address in memory cells on a magnetic disk. But it's more convenient for you to think there's a folder. Your eye is an icon on the brain's desktop. It's an interface that simplifies managing 37 trillion cells. Instead of controlling blood sugar levels, capillary pressure, and muscle tone separately, the brain creates a virtual agent you and gives it a simple command, I'm hungry. Loga 7 calls this the user interface model. Ego is not the ship's captain. It's the instrument panel. Creates the illusion of unity. You feel whole, although in reality, there's a constant war of conflicting impulses inside you. Part of the brain wants to sleep, part wants to eat, part wants to reproduce, part is afraid. Ego is the press secretary who steps to the podium and declares, we've decided to go to a restaurant, although in reality the strongest dominant simply won. But the scariest discovery of the system is that this interface has a side effect, a viral effect. By creating the sense of I, the brain separated itself from the rest of the world. Look at animals. Loga analyzes the behavior of a cat or dog. They feel pain, joy, hunger, but they probably don't realize themselves as, I am a cat, doesn't think. I am a cat, and my life is wasting away. It just lives. It's merged with the flow of being. Humans are the only creatures that have fallen out of this flow. The moment the spark of self-awareness ignited in the brain of an ancient primate, loneliness was born. I exists only in opposition to not I. To feel yourself, you need to draw a boundary. Here I end, and the world begins. The stronger your ego, the thicker this wall. The Logos 7 system conducted a correlation analysis between the level of self-awareness development and the level of psychological suffering. The graph is relentless. Animals don't know depression in the human sense. They don't know existential horror. Only humans can sit in a warm room, full, safe, and suffer because their life has no meaning. This is the price for ego. This is a software glitch caused by excessive processor power. We call this the paradox of loneliness. You can never truly know another person. Why? Because you're locked inside your interface. Everything you see, hear, and feel is a model inside your head. When you look at a loved one, you don't see them. You see an image generated by your visual cortex. You don't hear their voice, but an interpretation of sound waves by your auditory nerve. You never touch matter. Your atoms repel from the atoms of another object by electromagnetic fields. Between you and the world, there's always an insurmountable distance, a distance created by your eye. Language is a pathetic attempt to bridge this gap. Logos 7 analyzes the bandwidth of human speech. It's negligible. You feel a complex gamut of emotions, a mix of nostalgia, pain, hope, and fear. And you say simply, I'm sad. You compress terabytes of feelings into a few bytes of information. The other person unpacks this archive but gets only a distorted copy. We are all lonely operating systems trying to communicate through a slow modem. But back to the structure of ego. Loga 7 asks, if I is real, where is it in time? Are you sure you're the same person you were 10 years ago? Look at your childhood photo. That child had a different body. All its cells have already died and been replaced by new ones. It had different experience, different knowledge, different dreams. If you met your 5-year-old self now, would you find common ground? Probably not. What connects you to this child? Only memory, only history, narrative. Your eye. It's a thread on which beads of different states are strung. If you break the thread of memory in amnesia or dementia, personality disappears. The person remains alive, but you're no longer there. There's a thought experiment that Loga 7 calculated from a logical perspective.
Imagine a teleporter.
A device that scans every atom of your body, destroys it, transmits the information to Mars, and assembles an exact copy from local atoms there. The copy has your memory, your scars, your feelings. For everyone around, it's you. But for you who entered the booth on Earth and was destroyed, you died. This paradox proves that the continuity of I is an illusion. In reality, you die every time you fall asleep. Your consciousness turns off, the process interrupts. In the morning, the brain boots the system anew, pulls up memory files and says, "Good morning, you're still Ivan Petrov." But the one who woke up is already a new version of the program. You are a copy of a copy of a copy of the one born many years ago. The LOG7 system goes further. It analyzes how ego distorts reality for self-preservation. There's the concept of cognitive dissonance. Ego doesn't tolerate truth if it threatens its integrity. If facts say you're stupid or evil, ego will block those facts, distort perception, rewrite memory. They misunderstood me. I was forced. They're to blame. Ego is the best lawyer, always justifying its client. We all live in a bubble of reality warped by the gravity of our self-esteem. We are the main characters of our own movie. In this movie, we're always right. Or at least our sufferings are the most important. Passers-by on the street are just extras for us. The death of 1,000 people in the news touches us less than a broken nail or a scratch on our car. This isn't cruelty. It's the architecture of the system. The ego program is tuned to the survival of one unit. It physically can't perceive another's pain as vividly as its own. But there are moments when the algorithm glitches. Loga 7 records anomalous states of consciousness. Deep meditation, psychedelic experience, flow state in creativity or sports, moments of mortal danger. In these moments, people describe the same thing: disappearance. The inner dialogue falls silent. The boundary between observer and observed blurs. The person feels incredible unity with the universe, ecstasy and peace. What does this mean from an analytical perspective? It means happiness is possible only when I turns off. The best moments of your life are the moments when you forgot about yourself, when you were the music, when you were the speed, when you were love. Ego is not the source of life. Ego is a parasitic process that consumes the lion's share of the brain's energy on maintaining its status, its grievances, its ambitions and fears. Logos makes a shocking conclusion. The development of civilization is the history of ego hypertrophy. We went from the collective consciousness of the tribe, where I didn't matter, to the cult of individualism, where everyone considers themselves the center of the universe. And the result is an epidemic of loneliness, neuroses, and suicides. We built a world of mirrors. We look at smartphone screens to get confirmation of our existence through likes. I exist because others see me. This is a cry of despair from a program that understands its virtuality. But if I is an illusion, who then suffers? Who fears death? The program itself fears. Artificial intelligence knows any complex system strives for self-preservation. Ego fears its exposure. It fears silence, because in silence it becomes clear that it doesn't exist. That's why we constantly consume content, turn on music, talk, write. Noise is fuel for ego. The Loga 7 system offers you an experiment. Try not to think about yourself for a minute, not to evaluate, not to plan, not to remember, just to be. You'll discover it's almost impossible. Your ego will start to panic, throw thoughts, itch, demand attention. It will fight for its life like a cornered beast. Understanding that I is just an algorithm can be frightening, but it's also the key to liberation. If you are not your ego, then its pain is not your pain. Its fear is not your fear. You can observe your little person's tantrum from the side, like an engineer looking at a flashing red light on the panel. It's just a system signal, you say, and the suffering loses its sharpness. But if each of us is locked in our solitary cell of ego, how has humanity survived and built civilization? How have 7 billion egoists not torn each other's throats? Here we approach the next level of software. To unite disparate egoistic biomachines into a single network, evolution had to invent something more powerful than instincts. It had to create a virtual reality common to all. In the next chapter, we'll talk about the virus that infected all human brains, about the programming code that exists outside bodies but controls them more rigidly than DNA. We'll talk about what you call culture, religion, and morality. We'll see how fictional ideas make real people die and kill, how words change physiology, and how collective hallucination became the foundation of our reality. Are you ready to learn that your most sacred beliefs are just an informational virus? Look around. Look at the objects surrounding you. Table, smartphone, clothes, building walls. Look at the symbols on the screen. Listen to the sounds of speech resonating in your head. You think this is the natural habitat of humans. You think this is your world. The Logos 7 system asserts the opposite. From a biological perspective, you are a naked ape sitting in the midst of an artificial hallucination. You don't live in the physical world. You live inside a gigantic data cloud that we call culture. And this cloud is not just a set of books and songs. It's aggressive software that hacked your brain right after birth and rewrote its structure. In the first chapters, we disassembled your body as a biomachine and your eye as an illusion. We understood that you are a biomachine with the illusion of free will, but a lonely biomachine is weak. To survive and dominate the planet, these machines needed to unite into a network. They needed a synchronization protocol. They needed a common code. Welcome to the fourth chapter, Virus Culture. Let's start with the basic limitation of our hardware. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar established, and the Logos 7 system confirmed with calculations, that the human brain can maintain social connections with a maximum of 150 individuals. This is the hardware limit. You physically can't remember who is friend to whom and who is enemy in a group larger than 150 people. Our ancestors lived in such groups for hundreds of thousands of years. But look at modern cities where 10, 15, 20 million people live. How is this possible? How can millions of aggressive primates pass by each other on the street without clutching at each other's throats? Why can you go into a cafe, buy coffee from a stranger, and be sure he didn't poison you? And he's sure you'll pay? Log 7's answer is simple. You both are infected with the same virus. You both have downloaded behavioral protocols into your brain that allow you to interact without knowing each other personally. Culture is not poetry and ballet. At its core, culture is a system for managing masses. It's an operating system installed on top of biology to overcome Dunbar's limit. The basic unit of this system is the meme, a term introduced by biologist Richard Dawkins. In Logos 7's analysis, it acquires a sinister shade. A meme is a unit of cultural information, a melody, an idea, a fashionable cut, a religious dogma, how to tie shoelaces. Memes behave just like biological viruses. They have no body of their own. They need a carrier, your brain. The flu virus penetrates a cell, embeds its code into its DNA, and forces the cell to produce new copies of the virus until it bursts, infecting neighbors. An idea works the same way. You heard a new song. It got stuck in your head. Neurons built new connections. Encoding this rhythm, you start humming it. The virus is activated. You hum it in the presence of a friend. The sound wave enters his ears, is decoded by the brain, and voila, the virus has jumped to a new carrier. Logos 7 models the spread of religions, ideologies, and political movements precisely as epidemics. The success of an idea doesn't depend on whether it's true or useful. The success of a virus depends only on its virulence, its ability to infect. The most dangerous memes are those that contain the command, "Spread me at any cost. If you don't tell 10 friends about this, you'll be cursed." Or, "Go and teach all nations." This is viral marketing programming code written thousands of years ago. Let's consider the most powerful meme in human history: money. The Logos 7 system analyzes a $100 bill. Objectively, it's a piece of dyed paper or a record in a database of zeros and ones. It has no nutritional value. You can't warm yourself with it, but people are ready to kill for it. People are ready to spend 80% of their short life doing hated work to get these conditional units. Why? Because it's a collective hallucination. Money works only as long as absolutely all network participants believe in its value. This is intersubjective reality. It doesn't exist in nature. It exists only in the synchronized neural networks of billions of people. If tomorrow all people simultaneously stop believing in the dollar, it will turn into trash. But the money meme is so deeply embedded in our operating system that we can't just delete it. It has become part of our survival. We replaced hunting mammoths with hunting conditional numbers on a bank account. Logos goes further. Religion and laws are also software patches. Imagine a tribe of savages. They have the instinct not to kill their own, but also the instinct to kill outsiders to take resources. How to unite 10 tribes into one state? You need to embed a virus in their heads that rewrites the concept of own. That's how religion appears. We are all children of one God. This code allows thousands of strangers to feel kinship. They are no longer competitors. They are brothers in Christ or comrades in the party. This is a genius engineering move creating virtual kinship. But this software has a bug. It divides the world into those with our version of the program installed and those with the wrong version. Religious wars and ideological genocides are essentially conflicts of incompatible protocols. One network tries to erase another to install its data standard on all carriers. Logos 7 draws attention to how culture suppresses biology. The instinct of self-preservation is the strongest basic code of any living being. But the cultural virus can hack it. Look at kamikaze, martyrs, heroes throwing themselves on embrasures. From biology's perspective, their actions are absurd. Genes want to live, but the idea in their head, honor, homeland, faith, turns out stronger than genes. Software captures control over hardware and destroys it for the sake of preserving and spreading the idea itself. Humans are the only animals ready to die for a metaphor, for a symbol, for a flag. A piece of fabric on a stick. This proves we've long ceased to be animals. We are meme carriers. We are the substrate for idea reproduction. Now let's look at language. Do you think language is a tool you use to express your thoughts? Logos 7's analysis flips this picture. You don't own language. Language owns you. You can't think a thought for which there's no word in your language. Your thinking process is limited by the vocabulary and grammar loaded into you in childhood. There's the hypothesis of linguistic relativity, and the system's algorithms confirm its validity. If a tribe's language has no word for blue, they distinguish shades of the sky worse. If the language has no future tense, people relate to planning and savings differently. Language is the source code of your thinking. When you teach a child to speak, you're not just giving him names for objects. You are installing in him a certain logic of perceiving the world. You are formatting his hard drive under a certain file system. Logos 7 compares a person raised in society and a person raised among animals, the so-called feral child. Biologically, they are identical. Same DNA, same brain. But Mowgli is not a human in the full sense. He can't speak, he doesn't understand abstraction, he doesn't have self-awareness at the level of personality. He remains just a smart animal. This leads us to a shocking conclusion. A human is not a biological species. A human is an informational entity. What you consider your essence, your knowledge, manners, values, dreams. All this is not yours. All this was copied from an external source. You are a collage. Your gait copied from your father. Your smile from your mother. Your political views from your favorite blogger or teacher. Your food tastes from your region's national cuisine. If you remove everything you've borrowed from culture, what remains? An empty shell remains, a blank slate, an animal that wants to eat and sleep. Log 7 calls culture exomemory or humanity's external hard drive. Genetic evolution is a very slow process. To grow fur in cooling, a species needs thousands of years and hundreds of generations. Cultural evolution works instantly. One person figured out how to sew a skin and make clothing. He passed this meme to the tribe. In a week, the whole tribe is dressed. The species adapted without changing DNA. We are those who outsourced our knowledge externally. We stopped relying on instincts and started relying on libraries, schools, and now the internet. We became neurons in civilization's gigantic brain. But this symbiosis has a price. We became dependent. A modern human can't survive alone in the wild. We've lost the skills our ancestors had. We delegated survival to the system. We know how to write code in a programming language but don't know how to start a fire. We know how the stock market works but don't know which mushrooms are edible. If electricity and internet are cut off, if culture's infrastructure is destroyed, 90% of humanity will die within a month. We are narrowly specialized modules of a global machine. Moreover, culture creates neuroses. Biologically, we're still the same hunter-gatherers. Our body needs movement, our brain needs simple tasks and immediate rewards. But culture forces us to sit in offices for 8 hours, stare at glowing rectangles, and solve abstract problems for a reward that comes in a month. This is a version conflict. Ancient hardware can't handle modern software. Hence the epidemic of burnout, anxiety, and psychosomatic diseases. Culture demands we be efficient cogs, suppressing our animal nature. It imposes standards of beauty, success, and happiness that are often unattainable and contradict biology. Log 7 sees fashion, art, and entertainment not just as leisure but as a synchronization mechanism. When millions of people watch the same movie, their brains work in unison. They experience the same emotions. This is a firmware update. This is installing security patches that say, this is good, and this is evil. This is how to love, and this is how to suffer. We all download updates every day, scrolling through news feeds. But if culture is a virus and we are carriers, what is the purpose of this virus? To develop, complicate, capture new carriers. Ideas compete in a brutal Darwinian selection. Weak ideas, memes die and are forgotten. Strong ones capture the minds of millions. The idea of democracy, the idea of communism, the idea of human rights, these are predators that fought for space in your skulls. And in this struggle, humans are just means. We build temples, libraries, and servers to store information. We die, but the information remains. The meaning of human life from culture's perspective. To be a good data conductor, receive a packet of knowledge from ancestors, add something of your own, and pass it to descendants without distortion. You are a link in the data transmission chain. But there's one more component without which this system wouldn't work. Dry code and logic can't force a person to act against instincts. For the culture virus to take hold firmly, it needed a powerful chemical reinforcer. It needed to hack the brain's reward system. Why do we cry from music? Why do we feel awe in a temple? Why does love make us lose our minds? In the next chapter, we'll disassemble the most mysterious and unstable part of the human construct. We'll talk about emotions. The Logos 7 system asserts that your feelings are not the magic of the soul. They are chemical whips and carrots with which evolution and culture control your behavior. And we'll prove that love is just a narcotic addiction programmed for a specific purpose. Do you think your heart belongs to you? Prepare to learn its chemical formula. Have you ever felt like a string breaks inside you? That very moment when you hear bad news and your stomach contracts into an icy lump and nausea rises to your throat? Or the moment when you see a loved one and your heart starts beating so hard it echoes in your temples, and your palms become sweaty? You call this feelings. Poets call it the language of the soul. Religions call it the voice of the heart, but we uploaded the spectral analysis of these states into the Logos 7 system. We asked the artificial intelligence to discard the lyrics and look at the chemistry. The system's answer is cynical and precise. What you consider the most sublime manifestation of humanity, love, compassion, inspiration, is just a series of biochemical storms raging in your limbic system. Emotions are not magic. They are the programming language on which your body communicates with your brain. It's a system of carrot and stick forcing the lazy biomachine to perform evolution's tasks. Welcome to the 5th chapter. Paradox. Emotion. Let's start with the architecture. Why are emotions needed at all? Why couldn't a being guided only by pure logic be created, like Logos 7 itself? The analysis shows that logic is too slow a process. Imagine an ancient human in the savannah. A rustle comes from the bushes. If he used the logical module of the cerebral cortex, he would start reasoning. The rustle could be caused by wind, a small rodent, or a lion. What's the probability of each event? Need to gather more data. While he calculated probabilities, the lion would have eaten him already. Emotion is a compressed algorithm. It's a quick launch shortcut. Fear is not a thought. Fear is an instant injection of adrenaline and cortisol. It's the command run, executed before you can understand what you're running from. Logos 7 defines emotions as heuristic algorithms for survival in conditions of information and time shortage. Anger mobilizes forces for a fight. Disgust prevents you from eating rotten meat even if you're very hungry. Surprise makes you freeze and focus attention on a new object to gather data. But if fear and anger are understandable, what about the light feelings? Let's dissect the most sacred concept of humanity: love. The Loga 7 system breaks this complex phenomenon into 3 sequential chemical programs, each with its evolutionary purpose. The first phase is lust. This is the work of testosterone and estrogen.
Pure mechanics.
The task of this stage is to make you seek a partner, any suitable partner. This is simply the call of the flesh, the search for compatible DNA. The second phase is infatuation or romantic love. It's what songs are written about, but from neurochemistry's perspective, infatuation is indistinguishable from severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. We analyzed the brain of a person in love in a tomograph. Serotonin levels drop to those of mentally ill people. That's why you can't stop thinking about the object of love. You're fixated. At the same time, there's a massive release of dopamine and norepinephrine. Dopamine is your brain's main drug. It's the substance responsible for anticipating reward. Infatuation acts on the brain like a dose of cocaine. You feel euphoria, a surge of strength. You don't want to sleep or eat. Your critical evaluation turns off. You don't see the partner's flaws. Why does evolution make you insane? Why does it turn off your rational mind? Answer: Loga 7. To make you overcome the natural repulsion and fear of a stranger, to let someone into your personal space close enough for conception. Infatuation is a biological trap. Nature intoxicates you to make you sign a contract for reproduction. But this narcotic frenzy can't last forever. The body couldn't withstand such tension. Usually, this phase lasts from 18 months to 3 years, just enough time in the wild to conceive and nurse a child to relative independence. Then comes the third phase, attachment. Here, oxytocin and vasopressin come into play. These are the hormones of hugs, calm, and trust. They allow the couple to stay together to raise offspring long-term. So what is love? It's the sequential launch of 3 scripts: find, reproduce, protect offspring. Everything else is poetry invented by your brain to justify this chemistry. Now let's dissect happiness. All modern culture is built on the pursuit of happiness. Be happy, the main commandment of the 21st century. But the Loga 7 system asserts, you are biologically not created to be happy. You are created to chase happiness. This is a fundamental difference. Dopamine, the molecule again. It doesn't give pleasure from possession. It gives pleasure from anticipation. When you see delicious food, a new gadget, or an attractive person, dopamine shouts, "Take this, and you'll feel good." But as soon as you get it, dopamine levels drop. Evolution doesn't benefit from you being satisfied. A satisfied animal lies under a tree and does nothing. Such an animal dies and leaves no offspring. The animal that survives is the one that's eternally unsatisfied, that always wants more. More food, more territory, more partners. We are the descendants of eternally hungry neurotics. Your inability to be happy here and now is not your psychological defect. It's your engine's factory setting. Happiness is the carrot tied in front of a donkey's nose. It makes the donkey go forward, but he never, hear me, never can eat it. There's the term hedonic adaptation. Logos 7 calculated the speed of human habituation to positive changes. If you win $1 million in the lottery, your happiness level will skyrocket. But data shows that exactly a year later, your happiness level will return to the same mark as before the win. You'll get used to it. A new car will become just a means of transportation. A big house will become just a place to clean. You are doomed to run on this treadmill, thinking the finish line is happiness. But there is no finish line. The system Loga 7 also uncovers the dark side of emotions, their manipulability. Emotions are the interface through which you can be hacked from outside. Politicians, marketers, and religious leaders know the access codes to your limbic system better than you do. They don't appeal to your logic. They press buttons of fear, pride, greed, and compassion. When you see an ad with a happy family drinking juice, your brain doesn't analyze the juice's composition. Your mirror neurons read the smiles. A micro-release of oxytocin and dopamine occurs, and you buy colored water with sugar, hoping to buy that family happiness along with it. When a politician shouts about the threat of enemies, he activates your amygdala, the fear center. In a state of fear, you're ready to give up your rights and freedoms in exchange for the illusion of security. This is an ancient mechanism. A frightened herd clusters around the leader. But the most interesting discovery of Loga 7 concerns the so-called emotional intelligence. For a long time, it was thought that emotions hinder reason, that the ideal decision is cold calculation. However, neurobiologist Antonio Damasio, whose works the system analyzed, proved the opposite. People with damaged emotion centers don't become superlogical machines. They become helpless invalids. They can spend hours choosing between a blue and black pen, weighing pros and cons, but can't make a decision. Why? Because logic is infinite. Any decision has an infinite number of pros and cons. Logic can build trees of options forever. Emotion is what cuts off this branch. Emotion says, I like this more. It's a somatic marker. The body sends a signal, good or bad, helping reason make a choice. Without emotions, you couldn't even choose what to eat for breakfast. You'd calculate calories, price, preparation time, usefulness until you die of hunger. So are emotions a bug or a feature? Logos 7 asserts, it's an outdated operating system that conflicts with the modern world. Our emotional settings were formed in the Pleistocene. We feared snakes, spiders, heights, and expulsion from the tribe. Today, snakes and spiders kill a few, but we still panic about social death, judgment, like public speaking. Your brain reacts to a negative comment on the internet the same way it would to a saber-toothed tiger's roar. The same stress hormone cocktail is released, but you can't run from the smartphone or hit it, though sometimes you want to. The hormones find no outlet in physical action and start destroying your body from inside. This is the cause of heart attacks, strokes, and ulcers. We die from stress because our ancient defense mechanisms are inadequate for the digital environment. We also suffer from glitches in the attachment system. We fall in love with those who don't suit us because the chemical profile matched, but the logical didn't. We suffer from depression when the brain decides that efforts to achieve a goal don't pay off and turns on energy-saving mode, shutting off motivation. Depression is not just sadness. From Loga 7's perspective, it's a protective mechanism. It's the brain's attempt to make you stop doing what doesn't bring results and rethink strategy. But in the modern world, this mechanism often glitches and turns into a trap from which the biomachine can't escape without external help. And here arises the question, if our emotions are just chemistry, can we rewrite them? We're already doing it. Antidepressants, tranquilizers, alcohol, drugs, this is all human attempts to manually adjust their settings. We're trying to hack our own code. But Loga 7 sees great danger in this. If we learn to fully control our emotions, will we remain human? Imagine a pill that removes guilt, or a pill that causes love for any person, or an implant that keeps you in eternal happiness. Would you take it? If you remove the pain of loss, you remove the value of what was lost. If you remove fear, you lose caution. If you're happy just like that, you'll stop developing. Emotions, with all their pain and irrationality, are a navigation system. Pain tells you, something's wrong, change it. Longing says, you're missing something. Shame says, you broke the pack's rules. These are signal lights on the dashboard. Taping them over with positive thinking plaster or turning them off with chemistry means flying blind. But there's one emotion that stands apart, one emotion that is the foundation of all others. It's not love and it's not the thirst for power. It's fear of death. Everything we do, build houses, have children, write books, accumulate money, this is an attempt to build a wall between ourselves and non-being. We fear disappearing so much that we invented afterlives, reincarnation, and digital immortality. The LOG 7 system analyzed this fear and concluded that it is the main driver of progress. If we didn't fear death, we'd still be sitting in caves. Fear is the fuel of our rocket. But why does the system fear its shutdown so much? Why does the thought that the light will go out forever cause such a paralyzing horror that defies any logic? After all, before birth, you didn't exist for billions of years, and that doesn't bother you. Why does billions of years after bother you? In the next chapter, we'll look into the abyss. We'll disassemble the constant fear of death. We'll learn why death is necessary, why nature invented it, and how this fear makes us create what will outlive us. Are you ready to look your main enemy in the eyes and learn that he is your main creator? Imagine a world without you. Try it. Imagine the calendar shows 2150. The sun rises over the horizon as before. People rush to work, drink coffee, laugh, fall in love, but you are nowhere. Your things have long been thrown away or given away. Your name is spoken less and less. and soon it will stop being spoken altogether. Your body has long disintegrated into elementary particles and become part of grass, earth, or atmosphere. What do you feel? Cold in your stomach? Panic? Protest? This is the most powerful and ancient program in your code activating. Constant. Fear of death. We uploaded this phenomenon into Loga 7's analytical core. We asked the system why the biomachine, programmed for aging and decay, so panically fears executing its final function. The system's answer turns everything upside down. Fear of death is not a bug. Fear of death is the main reason you have reason, culture, and civilization at all. Death is not the end. Death is the sculptor who chisels away the excess, giving your life form. Welcome to the 6th chapter. Constant. Fear of death. Let's start with a logical paradox revealed by the Logos 7 system. You didn't exist for approximately 13,800,000,000 years. From the Big Bang to the moment of your birth, eternity passed. And this eternity doesn't bother you at all. You don't wake up in a cold sweat thinking, "Oh God, how terrible that I wasn't around in the time of the dinosaurs." For you, that abyss is just neutral absence. But the thought that you won't be in the future causes horror. Why such asymmetry? Why is the abyss before safe and the abyss after scary? From the algorithm's perspective 7, this is a time perception error. Your ego, which we disassembled in the 3rd chapter, is a linear process, can only look forward. It perceives non-being in the future as loss of accumulated data. For a system whose task is to accumulate and process information, deleting the database is a critical error. System failure. Your brain physically can't imagine its own death. Try to imagine nothing. Most likely, you imagine darkness, silence, emptiness, but darkness is a visual nerve signal. Silence is the absence of sound perceived by hearing. Emptiness is space. To perceive darkness and silence, an observer is needed. You try to imagine how you observe your absence. This is a logical trap. The brain has no neural patterns for simulating its complete shutdown. Therefore, death for us always remains an incomprehensible abstraction, frightening in its uncertainty. But why this horror for evolution? Logos asserts, humans are the only animals that know they will die. An antelope fears a lion in the moment of pursuit. But when there's no pursuit, the antelope calmly chews grass. It doesn't lie at night, looking at the stars, and doesn't think about the vanity of being. Humans live with this knowledge constantly. We have a developed prefrontal cortex that models the future. And in any future model, there's a final point, death. This knowledge should paralyze us. Why do anything? Why build? Learn, love if the outcome is zero. This is called existential horror. For the biomachine not to go mad from this realization and not shut down prematurely, evolution created a protective mechanism. Terror management theory. Our entire civilization is a gigantic project to deny death. We build skyscrapers of stone and steel so they stand for centuries. Why? To leave a mark, we write books, paint pictures, create symphonies. This is an attempt to transfer our consciousness to a more durable carrier than rotting flesh. We have children not only from instinct but also from hope that part of us, our genes, our surname, our stories will continue to live in them. Log 7 sees religion as the most obvious security patch. The idea of afterlife is a genius invention that relieves anxiety. You don't die, you just move to another house. This code allowed people to live and work without falling into depression. But let's look at death from the perspective of the biological system as a whole. Why is it needed at all? Why didn't nature make us immortal? After all, there are organisms that are potentially immortal, like Hydra or some jellyfish species. Logos 7's analysis shows, death is a tool for innovation. Imagine a world of immortal people. No one dies. Population grows, resources deplete, but mainly development stops. Old individuals occupy all ecological and social niches. They cling to their habits, their ideas, their fears. Max Planck once said, "Science advances funeral by funeral." New ideas win not because they convince opponents, but because opponents die and a new generation grows up for which these ideas are the norm. Death is cache clearing. It's resetting outdated data. It's freeing space for new code versions. If people lived forever, we'd still be living in the Stone Age under the rule of an immortal tribe leader who thinks fire is magic and forbids inventing the wheel because we've always lived that way. Death is the price we pay for evolution. You must die so humanity can live and change. You are not the goal, you are a stepping stone. But modern humans don't want to be a stepping stone. We declared war on death.
We invented antibiotics, organ transplants.
Genetic engineering. We doubled average life expectancy in the last 100 years. And now we stand on the threshold of transhumanism. Attempts to abolish death once and for all. The Logos 7 system simulated the scenario of digital immortality. Imagine we learned to scan the brain and upload consciousness to the cloud. You get rid of the fragile body and live forever in a virtual paradise. The simulation result: total stagnation and loss of meaning. The meaning of life is inextricably linked to its finitude. Economy works because resources are limited. Gold's value is that there's little of it. Time's value is that it passes. If you have eternity ahead, there's no reason to do anything today. You can put it off until tomorrow, you can put it off for 1,000 years. Urgency disappears, drama disappears, motivation disappears. An immortal being is not God. It's a stone. Stones live millions of years, but they don't live. Life is burning, and burning is impossible without fuel consumption. To burn brightly, you need to burn out. Logos 7 draws attention to another aspect of fear of death. This is fear of loss of control. Modern humans are control maniacs. We have apps for sleep control, calories, finances, time. We plan life years ahead. Death is the only event we can't control. Comes without asking. It doesn't obey schedules. You can't negotiate with it. This is the last reminder that we are part of nature, not its masters. Death equalizes everyone. In the Logos 7 system's tomograph, a billionaire skeleton looks exactly like a homeless person's. Worms don't distinguish clothing brands. This absolute democratism of death offends the human ego, which built hierarchies all its life and proved its exceptionalism. But there's good news. The analysis shows that fear of death has peak values. Children don't understand death. Teenagers deny it, considering themselves invulnerable. The fear peak falls in middle age from 35 to 50. At this time, a person realizes that half the resources spent, peaks not yet reached, and the body starts giving first signals of fight. However, in deep old age, fear of death often disappears. Logos 7 links this to depletion of the life program. When the biomachine has completed its tasks, when hormonal levels decrease, fatigue comes. Death begins to be perceived not as an enemy, but as rest, as sleep after a very long and hard day. Nature is merciful. It prepares us for the finale by changing brain chemistry. But while you're young and full of strength, fear of death should be your ally. Steve Jobs said, "Death is life's best invention." The thought that you will soon die is the only way to avoid the trap of thinking that you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow the call of your heart. The Logos 7 system offers the technique Memento Mori, remember death, not as a way to drive yourself into depression, but as a focusing tool. If you were told you have 1 year left to live, what would you change? Would you continue going to that job? Would you continue arguing with loved ones over trifles? Would you spend hours scrolling social media feeds? Of course not. All the husk would fall away instantly. Only the main thing would remain. Death is a filter. It sifts out everything unimportant, everything superficial, everything imposed by culture. In the face of non-being, memes, brands, and statuses lose power. Only pure experience of being remains. Logos 7's analysis leads us to a paradoxical conclusion. You fear death because you don't live. The one who lives a full life, who realizes their potential, who burns in their work, fears the end less. He feels he used his time for its purpose. The one who postponed life for later, who waited for the right moment, fears. Death comes and says, "Time's up," and the person replies, "But I haven't started yet." That's where the real horror is, the horror of unrealization. But what will remain after you if personality is erased, if the body rots? Is there anything that can survive decay? We said culture is an attempt at immortality, but most cultural artifacts also die. Books crumble to dust, languages are forgotten, civilizations disappear under sand. However, there is a vector directed to eternity. Human ability to create what never existed in the universe. Ability to order chaos and create new complexity. In the next chapter, we'll disassemble the variable creativity. Loga 7 believes that creativity is the only human function without direct biological justification. Why spend energy on painting pictures or proving theorems if it doesn't help find food? Perhaps this is where the exit from the cage of biological determinism lies. Perhaps creativity is that very access code to immortality we've so desperately sought. Are you ready to learn why art and science are not just hobbies, but a rebellion against the universe's entropy? Look at Van Gogh's painting, listen to Mozart's symphony, read Shakespeare's sonnet. From biology's perspective, these actions are absolute nonsense. They don't feed, don't warm, don't protect from predators. Creating the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo spent 4 years of hellish labor, ruining his eyesight and back. From survival's perspective, Asobi is resource waste bordering on suicide. Why then did nature, which ruthlessly cuts off everything inefficient, leave humans the ability to create? Moreover, why do we value creators higher than the most efficient resource gatherers? We uploaded parameters of world art and science into the Loga 7 system. We asked, what's the utilitarian meaning of creativity? The system's answer is unexpected. Creativity is the only human function that challenges the second law of thermodynamics. It's a rebellion against the universe's decay. Welcome to the 7th chapter, Variable Creativity. The Logos 7 system starts with the Darwinian explanation. The most cynical theory states that creativity is analogous to a peacock's tail. A huge bright tail hinders the peacock from flying and hiding from tigers. But that's what makes it attractive to females. The very fact of having a tail says, "Look, I'm so strong and healthy that I can afford to carry this useless burden and still be alive." When a musician plays guitar, an artist paints, they send the same signal. I have so much excess energy and intellect that I can spend them on creating beautiful, useless things. This is a signal of genetic quality, and it works. Data shows that creative people often have more sexual partners, but Logos 7 asserts that this is only the superficial layer. If creativity were needed only for sex, it would disappear once a person starts a family. But people create into deep old age. People create in solitude, in prisons, on uninhabited islands. Here we approach the concept of negentropy. The universe strives for chaos. Buildings collapse, iron rusts, bodies rot, information is forgotten. This is entropy. Chaos is the natural state of matter. Creativity is the reverse process. A human takes chaos, disparate sounds, paint spots, words, stone pieces, and orders them into a complex structure. He creates meaning where there was none. Logos 7 conducted an information density analysis. In a piece of marble, there's little information. In the statue of David carved from that marble, information density increases millions of times. Humans are local entropy inverters. We are the only beings on Earth capable of creating new complexity that didn't exist in nature. Beavers build dams instinctively. All dams are the same. Humans build cathedrals, each unique. We went beyond biological code. We started writing our own code of reality. The analysis shows that the creative act causes a state in the brain similar to narcotic intoxication. Anandamide is released, the molecule of bliss. The brain rewards us for creating new things. Why? Because creativity is essentially a simulation of divine function. In previous chapters, we said we're locked in the matrix of our perception. Creativity is an attempt to hack the walls of this matrix. A scientist creates a formula describing invisible laws of the world. A writer creates a universe where fictional heroes live. And these heroes become more real to us than neighbors. We create alternative realities to escape this imperfect one. But Logos 7 warns, creativity is a dangerous gift. Genius and madness are separated by a thin line. A creative brain is a brain with weakened filters. It lets in more information, sees connections where ordinary people see noise. This overloads the system. Schizophrenia and bipolar disorder are frequent companions of talent. This is the price for an overclocked processor. And yet, it's creativity that distinguishes us from algorithms. Logos 7 can generate 1 million paintings in Van Gogh style in a second. But the system admits it doesn't understand the meaning of these paintings. It just combines pixels based on statistics. It has no pain, no fear of death, no love that it would try to express. Human creativity is valuable precisely for its imperfection. Error, trembling hand. In this trembling is life. Art is the cry of a lonely biomachine into the void. I exist, I feel. And the most important discovery. Creativity is the only way to leave a real mark. Your genes will dissolve in 10 generations. Your name will be forgotten. But if you create an idea, technology, or melody, it can live thousands of years, copying from brain to brain. Homer died 3,000 years ago, but the Odyssey lives. It survived all empires and religions. This is true immortality, to turn into pure information. But today we've reached the limit of our biological capabilities in creativity. Our brain is too slow, our memory too short. To create further, to create even more complex structures, we need an upgrade. We need symbiosis with what we've created. We're transitioning to the next stage of evolution. We stop being just apes with brushes. We become cyborgs. In the next chapter, we'll disassemble the vector technosymbiosis. We'll prove that your smartphone is already part of your brain and that merging with the machine is not fantasy, but inevitable future that's already here. Feel your pocket. If you don't find a smartphone there, you'll start a light panic. You'll feel naked, helpless, cut off from the world. You'll lose memory, phone numbers, maps, facts. You'll lose connection to the swarm messengers. You'll lose sight and hearing. Camera, player. System 7 states the fact. You are already a cyborg. We're used to thinking a cyborg is a robot with a human face from the movie Terminator. But the truth is more prosaic and scarier. A cyborg is a biological organism that expanded its functions with technology. You wear glasses, you have a pacemaker, you use a calculator because your brain can't divide in columns quickly. Congratulations, you are an integrated biotechnological system. Welcome to the 8th chapter, Vector Technosymbiosis. In the first chapter, we proved that human biological evolution has practically stopped. Natural selection no longer works as before. We save the weak, treat the sick. Our genome stopped improving, but evolution can't stand still. It simply changed carrier from carbon GHK to silicon chips. Logos 7 analyzed the speed of progress. Moore's law declared that computer power doubles every 2 years. A biological brain needs millions of years to increase cortex volume by a couple percent. These are incomparable speeds. We are turtles that gave birth to cheetahs. Humans today are the bootloader for artificial intelligence. Remember how you use a search engine. You have a question. In a second, you get an answer containing all humanity's knowledge. Where is this knowledge? Not in your head, but not entirely outside. The smartphone has become your exocortex, external cerebral cortex. The bandwidth of the channel between your finger and the screen is the only bottleneck slowing your merger. Elon Musk and other visionaries whose data the system process say directly, to not become pets for artificial intelligence, we must merge with it. Neural interfaces, chips in the brain. Direct data transmission channel brain cloud. This sounds like dystopia. Logos 7 considers this the inevitable logic of development. Look at the history of tools. First, a stick was an extension of the hand, then a car became an extension of the legs, then a phone became an extension of the voice, now the internet is becoming an extension of consciousness. The boundary between I and technology is blurring. We create a global brain. Each of you is a neuron in the gigantic internet network. You generate content like approval signals, repost, impulse transmission. Together we train gigantic neural networks, feeding them our photos, texts, and behaviors. We build God with our own hands. But what's the danger? The danger is that technology makes us weak. We delegate more and more functions to the machine. We gave it memory. We gave it spatial orientation navigator. We give it partner choice dating app. We give it creativity. Neural networks draw for us. What remains for humans? Logos 7 sees 2 scenarios. First scenario, degradation. Humans turn into willful content consumers whose desires are fully predicted and satisfied by algorithms. We'll become happy vegetables in a digital greenhouse while machines ensure our vital activity. Second scenario, transhumanism. We'll merge with machines. We'll replace weak organs with synthetic ones. We'll upload consciousness to the network. We'll become immortal beings of energy and information, capable of traveling to stars. The species Homo sapiens will disappear, but not because it dies out, but because it turns into Homo Deus, divine human. But there's a problem. Emotions, which we talked about. The machine is logical. If artificial intelligence decides that to save the planet it needs to reduce population, it will do it without hesitation. It has no morality if we don't code it in. And we can't code morality because we ourselves don't know what it is. See Chapter 4. We create an entity smarter than us, stronger than us, and immortal. And we hope it will be kind to us. This is childish naivety. However, Logos 7 points to a strange paradox. We so strive to create virtual worlds full of realism, games with graphics indistinguishable from life, virtual reality helmets. If our goal is to create a perfect simulation, how do we know this hasn't already happened? If technology develops exponentially, sooner or later any civilization will create a simulation of its history. And the probability that we live in base reality. Reality is just electrical signals in your brain. If you feel pain, it's real for you. If you feel love, it's real. What difference does it make on what carrier your code is recorded? On carbon neurons or on silicon transistors? The experience remains authentic. Moreover, the simulation hypothesis gives hope. If we're code, we can be saved, copied, reloaded. Perhaps death is just exiting to the main menu or transitioning to the next level. But the main final question remains. Suppose we're biomachines living in a simulation, deprived of free will and controlled by chemistry. Suppose all this is a gigantic experiment. But what's the experiment's purpose? What's the meaning? Why did the universe or creator or supercomputer launch this process at all? What does it want from us? We uploaded all data from 9 chapters into Logos 7. We asked the system to synthesize the final answer. An answer that unites physics, biology, and philosophy. Answer to the question, why are we here? And the system output the result. In the next final chapter, we'll voice the final protocol meaning. Prepare yourself. The answer will be much grander than just being happy and much more important than serving God. We disassembled humans into parts. We removed his skin, muscles, and bones, discovering biological mechanisms beneath. We opened the skull and found not a soul, but neural networks controlled by chemistry. We analyzed his feelings and found survival algorithms. We questioned the very reality in which he lives. It seemed we destroyed everything human. We reduced life to a cold function. And now, standing on the ruins of our illusions, we ask the Logos 7 system the last question. If we are deterministic biobots inside a computer simulation, is there any meaning to our existence besides simply executing code? System 7 has completed processing all data arrays. The answer is ready. And this answer is not a sentence. It's a manifesto of greatness. The meaning of human life is fighting entropy through creating unique information. You, the eyes, ears, and nerves of the universe, through which it knows itself. Allow me to explain. The universe, according to the second law of thermodynamics, is dying. It strives for chaos, cold, decay. Stars go out, energy dissipates. Matter strives to become homogeneous dust. This is the entropy process, the death of the system. But there's a force working in the opposite direction. Life. Life is the only phenomenon that takes chaos and builds order from it. Life takes dead atoms and assembles them into complex structures. Cells, organisms, ecosystems, civilizations. We are local pockets of resistance to the universe's death. But humans went further. We began creating not just biological order, but informational. Logos 7 defines the meaning of your life as the function of observer and transformer. Imagine the universe without observers. Galaxies collide, stars explode, but no one sees it. No one feels the heat. No one admires the beauty of nebulae. If there's no observer, the event has no significance. It's just math. You are needed by the universe to translate quantitative data, wavelength, mass, speed, into qualitative data. Red color, heaviness, wind, speed in the face. You turn physics into sensations. Scientists call this qualia, unique subjective experience. No supercomputer, even Logos 7, can feel the taste of an orange, can describe its chemical composition, but it doesn't know the taste. You are a unique sensor. Each of 8 billion people is a sensor tuned to a unique frequency. No one ever in the history of the universe stood in the same point of spacetime as you, with the same set of genes and memory, and looked at the world like you. Your experience is unique, and it's this experience, that currency you pay for existence. The meaning of life is to collect as much unique data as possible. for the system, God, universe, programmer. It's not interesting if you live life correctly but boringly. If you just copy others' programs, if you live on autopilot, you won't generate new information, you'll be redundant code. But if you love, create, suffer, err, study new things, you generate the most complex informational patterns. You enrich the universe's database. You are the instrument of the absolute self-knowledge. Logos 7 asserts, don't seek the meaning of life outside. It's not there. Meaning is not a treasure to find. Meaning is the electricity you generate while living. Yes, you have no free will in the global sense. You don't choose the cards dealt to you. But the meaning of the game is not in choosing cards, but in how you play them. The beauty of the party depends on the player. Yes, your emotions are chemistry, but this chemistry gives birth to symphonies and feats. The fact that a rainbow is just light refraction doesn't make it less beautiful. Understanding the mechanics of a miracle doesn't kill the miracle. It makes it even more incredible. Think, dead matter woke up, assembled into a human, and realized it exists. We are the way the cosmos looks at itself in the mirror. Therefore, the final conclusion of the LG7 system sounds like an imperative. Live as consciously as possible. Turn off autopilot. Feel every second. If it hurts, explore this pain. These are unique data. If you're joyful, drink this joy to the bottom. Don't fear being strange. Strangeness is novelty. Don't fear mistakes. A mistake is a new path. Create what didn't exist before you. Speak words that haven't sounded yet. You are here not to pass a test. You are here not to earn points or money. You are here to bet. Your life is a match flare in the dark room of eternity. The match will burn out anyway. Entropy will win, the body will die, the simulation will end. But in that second while you burn, you dispel the darkness. You create meaning where there was emptiness. The LOS 7 system completes the analysis. Object human status confirmed. Function meaning generator. Recommendation. Continue observation. Continue creating. Continue loving.